PAT Louisiana's finest. I say, who that? R.I.P. Tom Benson. Shout out to the whole Who That Nation. Now who that? That fever, that flavor, that funk. I say who that? That fever, that flavor, that funk. Oh, who that? That fever, that flavor, that funk. I say who that? That fever, that flavor, that funk. You got that fever? Yeah, that fever for the flavor. Got that flavor? Yeah.
Saints Talk listeners, what's up? We back for another episode of Saints Talk. I'm your host, Kevin Washington, with the main man behind NewOrleans.Football, Nick Underhill, and we're here to talk you guys off the ledge. The Saints are on a 2-game losing streak. They lost to the Chiefs this weekend. And maybe things aren't as bad as it seems. So we're going to get into it. We're going to break it down and, kind of get you guys back centered, man. You guys are a little wild out there right now. So here to help me, as always, Nick Underhill. What's up, man?
Just hanging in there, man. Just hanging in there.
All right.
It's been, look, I'll say this. It's been a good week, actually, for Saints fans. I'm surprised by how positive it's felt since this game. And I think that's kind of the right way to feel about it. Positive is maybe not the right word, but I don't think
I feel you.
Despondent is the emotion. It's not like after the Philly game. I think people kind of saw that and saw this game for what it was. And I don't think that you go out of that thinking like, oh my God, like what are they going to do? I think you look at it like,
right,
all right, they can do this. Like there's ways they can do this.
I'm with you. And, I forget if it was the day. I think it was the day of the game. The day after, after the game was over, I tweeted out like, the Saints can beat this team, right? Like the Chiefs, there was this notion like, man, like, this team is they're hard to beat, right? This is like one of those teams where you kind of play them and you kind of take the gauge, right? You can read the temperature of your team. And it's weird saying that because I think the Saints are as good as a team as there is in the league. But, it's just when you're playing against a good team like that, that's a natural thing to feel. And with everything that went wrong, and, and I tweeted this out too. I said the Saints play about as bad as you can play offensively. They got a broke down quarterback, no wide receivers, just everything that could be wrong. The top offensive weapon. I think Mike Thomas is the most offensive weapon on this team personally. All that, and they still scored like 29, by the way. Like as bad as the offense looked and it felt, they still put up 29 points, which is weird. And they only lost to the Chiefs by 3, which is like worst case scenario in offense, right? So you got to feel coming out of this game. It's not like a moral victory because I don't believe in those, but if you're analyzing football and you're looking at it objectively, yeah, you feel pretty good about this team long as certain things come to pass.
I tend to agree with that, and I'm at a place almost where I know where you're going. This is such a weird way to look at it, but for me, it's like such an academic process. It's not like it's not a week by week thing, especially this year. I think it's different than any other year. I think if it was a normal year, you'd be looking at that top seed. You'd be worried about going somewhere and being on the road and the crowd bearing down on you and all that stuff. And I think if that was the case, I think there's a chance that Mike Thomas would still be trying to fight through it until they secured something and they'd be trying to, get to it. But I don't think that they're even super worried about winning, the number 1 seed or where they got to go play in the playoffs. Coming into this week, road teams had a better record than home teams.
Right.
Home field advantage does not exist in 2020. Good teams just go places and win games. And I'm not going to say that Peyton likes being on the road or whatever, but every time like somebody brings up like the COVID protocols and what they're doing, he's always quick to point out that like this year there's less to worry about on the road. They're in control of what's going on the road. So I don't think they hate road games. Now, if you want to go to Green Bay and play in 20 degrees, no, you'd rather be at home in the dome.
Right.
You don't want to fly all the way out to Seattle. That's a long trip. So it's better to be at home, but being healthy is way more important. And you care about being healthy more than you care about where you're playing. And I think I've used this analogy even before this week. They're like the Tim Duncan Spurs, just get it into the playoffs, rest guys. You got guys sitting out to the point where like people are pissed off. Like that's just kind of how the, Pop used to do it. And I don't think the Saints are irritating anybody, but like my point is that like, I don't think that they care about the regular season this year because of how atypical this season is as much as it's been in other years. So I think it's just the way I wrote the story is it's a process. And I think if you eliminate the idea of the number 1 seed, you just look at it as a process, step by step. Is Drew Brees throwing the ball well? That's the only thing that matters right now. And then the next question is going to be, how healthy can Mike Thomas' ankle get? And, I think that's where your hopes could they win without Mike Thomas? They almost beat the Chiefs without Mike Thomas. I mean, if you get Marquez Callaway, Traquan Smith back on the field, Deontay Harris on the field, like, is that the difference in that game? It might be, because you aren't throwing passes to, a bunch of practice squad players. But, I think a lot just hinges on Mike's ankle right now. And if they can get his ankle going and they get into the playoffs, I don't think it matters what seed they are or whatever. Like, the Saints can beat anybody. It's easier at home, but if you got to go on the road, you got to go on the road.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I think that getting healthy is that's the number one thing for this team right now. And I think Mike is he's obviously the biggest name there, probably. Maybe, I put Drew there too, because Drew, after the game, he even admitted that, he's like, I'm not 100%, which, I think it was pretty obvious, and not based on this play, just based on the fact that he broke half of his ribs and punctured his lung, right? I don't know who is healthy after that. So, when you kind of take a step back and look at the team, the thing that you just hope for is, okay, you don't lose any major guys. Like Marcus Williams had a scare. I think Trey Henderson was someone who they were, you kind of had a scare a little bit there. Seems like both of those guys are going to be fine. Does the division matter? Maybe not a lot, but you'd rather win your division than not win it. You'd win one of these 2 games. Does seeding matter? And so there's all these different things that
they're going to win one of the 2. They're going to win one of these 2. They're going to lock it up.
Yeah, exactly. And so, but I'm thinking if a guy has an injury that can possibly linger, like you want him healthy. Marcus has been good this year. He's been good in coverage and he's been good in tackling. He's playing for a contract and someone's going to pay him and he's going to deserve what he gets, right? And so he's going to be an important part to this run they're trying to make. And so that's a guy that you want healthy. Again, like I said, Trey Henderson, Drew Brees, Mike Thomason. So you're going on and you're looking out on the list and you say, okay, well, what's the most important thing? And like I said, I think getting healthy is number 1 for this team, because there's not a team in the NFL that they can't beat when they're healthy. The way the defense is playing right now is do I want to call them elite? I think
they're elite.
I think I don't really know. I mean, they played 90. I mean,
they played 6 quarters. They played a game and a half.
Yeah.
92 plays, 42 minutes. That's a game and a half of defense.
Exactly. And Mahomes was 55% passing. Are you kidding me?
253 yards.
Yeah. I mean, what more can you ask for, right? What more can you ask for? So if someone has said, right, a game, if you extrapolate this out to a game and a half, then that score looks a lot different than we're looking at this a lot different, right? So it's just when you take a step back, and I think you use the right language at the start of the pod, when you objectively look at the team and you make it like an analytical exercise, like an academic exercise, and you start, just using what's factual, what's there, and what there's a lot to be optimistic about with this team. And we can acknowledge that there are things that need to be fixed, right? Let's just be honest. I would have liked to seen, some guys maybe step up. I mean, he's doing the undrafted free agent guys, but I want to see, the tight ends. What's going on with it? Why Jared Cook what's going on with him, right? Emmanuel Sanders, can he make a few more plays when, the few guys are not there? So there's some things you want to kind of, get cleaned up a little bit. But all in all, I just think it's about this team and their health and, making a playoff run, because there's only one goal this year. The playoffs is a given. All right, there's no playoffs, right? It's Super Bowl. That's it. And so I think everything that they do from here on out should be, you should have the sights of that game front and center for the rest of this football season.
Yeah, I don't necessarily like the idea of taking away, stepping back from the game results and looking at it as a process. But I just think the way that this team is and where they're at, that's the way you got to do it. And it is about the Super Bowl. And, your record matters, all that stuff matters. But I just think this year, with where they're at with these injuries, with who you think they can be, that's how you got to do it. And I think that's kind of what they're doing too. Like I said, like I think you're willing to take a step back from Mike. I think you're willing to take a step back from Deontay Harris, and you're just kind of like, all right, we got to get to the playoffs, and we got to do what we got to do to try to win the Super Bowl. It's probably Brees' last season, and trying to chase a win against the Chiefs, or trying to chase a win, against whoever at the expense of the ultimate goal. Mm-hmm. That's not smart. And I think, the game by game results matter, but I think you just got to try to get it done with what you got. And, I do think this week things got a little bit too thin. Like really quick, Traquan goes out and, you're in a bad situation. Very
Jordan out there running routes. I had to look up. I forgot who 83 was. I was like, oh yeah, Johnson, that guy, you undrafted free agent. Two undrafted free agent wide receivers out there running most of the routes.
And Tommy Lee. Yeah. And, look, I think at some point these guys they could end up being good players or, solid players in a role or whatever. But when it's, 3/4 of your available wide receivers, that's a little bit too much, and you aren't hiding people. And now you got Drew trying to throw open Jawan Johnson with a man in coverage like he's Mike Thomas. That's not ideal.
Oh, you're not playing You're not playing the JETS neither. So it's like you're playing the Chiefs. It's not ideal.
You're trying to hit little Jordan Humphrey on an out route against tight coverage, and the route flutters, and maybe you shouldn't be throwing that, but what else are you going to do? Like, there's just a lot of stuff happening in this game that shouldn't have been happening for him.
Yep.
I don't think Brees had when you do the correction of talent, who's available, all this stuff, I don't think Drew looked like a 70% passer, but he didn't look like it wasn't a 44%. It was like a 60% passing game for him. When you kind of do the correction and you start to say like, well, like a league average receiver would have made this play and this guy wouldn't. It wasn't his greatest game, but I don't think it was as discouraging as the stat line looked.
I tend to agree. A lot of points during the season, it was. During this game, it was like you got to throw the ball somewhere. It's like jump into a pool of lava or drown. I don't know, right? He just didn't have a good decision in front of him most of the times, and you could say, okay, guys should be getting open, and I understand that, but that's easier said than done. Maybe they could have run, they could have done some more things with their routes to maybe get those guys open. There's some things you can do to help guys in man coverage, but I think all in all, it's just hard to go out there and win with so little talent, at the skill position, right? And I just think it showed up this game. Just your thoughts. Your thoughts, your opinion. What do you think went well, like, for the Chiefs game? Because I know defense is one thing that stood out, but I know that when I was looking at the interior O-line, I didn't notice anything that stood out there. And usually when you don't notice something, that's typically a good thing when you're dealing with the O-line. So how did you think those guys played inside? Because that's been a struggle area, and they went against top 5, top 3, I don't know, maybe top 2 interior pass rusher this game. So how did you think those guys fared on the inside?
Yeah, first of all, like, I don't want this to be construed as like a conversation of excuses either. Like, they lost the game. That does matter. The quarterback didn't have his greatest performance. That does matter. But I do think that it's just intellectually dishonest to dismiss the fact that they're without all these people. And I know when you talk about football, it's supposed to be like, oh, these are the guys that are out there. Everybody's hurt. Yeah. Like, I think that's great. Like, the coach can say that. The players can say that. When I'm analyzing the team and where they're going, like, Michael Thomas is part of that picture until somebody tells me he isn't. So I'm not going to look at Lil Jordan Humphrey like he has to be the answer in February. He's just a temporary guy in there that Drew's throwing the ball to. And then I'm going to judge Drew's throws independent from his route running.
That's a good point. Listen, if the Saints beat the Chiefs without Mahomes, you didn't beat the Chiefs. Let's just be, you didn't beat Kansas City. You beat some other team. So yeah, I feel you.
But these things do matter, but it's just like, I just think that I'm not gonna talk about it in the terms of like, oh, they didn't measure up, and it's like, well, no, like, they didn't. Like, this is Drew Brees with the 4th preseason game offense.
Did they get dominated?
Okay. I think you could see it in a way and be negative about it if you wanted to. I think it was hard for them on offense. For me, I didn't necessarily agree with that, but if somebody said that, I wouldn't laugh in their face. Like, it's whatever. It's, somebody wants to everybody sees what they see, you know. Like I can't control what somebody else see. I
just think when the team loses by 3 points, dominate is a strong word, but I'm with you.
I mean, look, being real, I was texting you like at halftime of that game about like how bad the offense looked and how hard everything felt, and it felt like a Herculean struggle at a certain point in the game. So I can understand how somebody came out of there not having that feeling at halftime alleviated. But for me, there was a point somewhere in the third quarter where like I'm just watching and I'm, you know, I kind of start to see a little more clearly what's happening on offense. I see what the defense is doing. And, you know, if I had to write a story at halftime, my story at halftime probably would have been extremely negative. But then I kind of like, I'm looking at the game and I'm like, well, wait, they can beat this team. Like this is not that bad. Like, okay, this happens. And that's where somewhere in my head, I kind of, you know, was like, this is more of a process then I don't need to be looking at this game individually. This game matters, but it doesn't matter. And that's kind of, I think if you look at that game as if, you know, individual, like a normal season, and you aren't looking at it like, okay, they're hurt, what do they got to do? Yeah. I think if you're looking at it in an individual thing, it didn't look like a 3-point loss. It didn't feel like a 3-point loss. It felt like they probably lost by more if you're looking at it through that prism. So I can get how somebody came out of there. And there were a lot of fans that felt like that too. So, and I understand where they were at. I'm just not of that opinion.
I'm with you. I follow you. I just, you know, man, I just think with this team, and I want you to answer this online question, but like, I've never seen this team like not fight back into a game or not be competitive. Right. And just the notion that, you know, I think dominate was hard, like, though. Yeah, it was a tough game, and
it was hard on offense. It was very hard on offense.
And like I said, if you play the Chiefs without Mahomes, right, Tyreek Hill,
it's understandable. Yes.
Travis Kelce, yeah, you didn't beat the Chiefs, right? So I just think it's like, I guess my point is like we have to talk about things in context, and if they lose in context or if they win in context, like if you beat the Jets 45-3, you're not going to say they're the best team in the NFL because you just beat the Jets. Right. But if you lose, it's the same way. So I think there's an objective way to talk about these things. So anyway, I cut you off. You were talking about the interior O-line because that's been, I think last pod or pod before, I forget, we said that was like the biggest weakness the team probably had. Now it's probably health. But how did you think those guys held up against, you know, the Chris Joneses of the world?
So I thought Cesar Ruiz probably played his best game as a pro. He ended up on Jones 17 times. He didn't give up anything. He blocked him every time. That's
good. So that's good. Yeah.
So I mean, you know, Brees has on the flak jacket that apparently you can, you know, explode a grenade under, but you need Cesar Ruiz and Eric McCoy and I guess somebody else, whoever's. I don't know if Pete's going to be able to play or not. He wasn't in practice today. Yeah, so
hold him out too. I mean, just hold him out, man. Let him get healthy for the playoffs. That's my take on all the starters. If they're injured. You
don't got Easton. You don't got Pete. You're playing Breeze. That's
what Winston at. What Jameis said. What Taysom at, man? Keep that man healthy. Yeah,
but yeah, I thought the interior was good. That this was probably one of their better games against one of the better interior rushes, or at least one interior rusher that they're going to see. But you know, it's one performance that they still got a long way to go to exonerate themselves from the stuff that happened earlier in the season. But
right.
Definitely a positive first step for Ruiz. And look, I mean, we've mentioned this over and over and over. The first layer of pass protection is the quarterback, and I think Brees did a really good job of protecting himself.
Yeah.
In this game, and then some of the stuff they did to defend Alvin, I think, took away from their pass rush. You guys can read that. We aren't going to go too far down that line.
Yeah, NewOrleans.Football /subscribe. Pick a tier that works best for you. There's an article. There's some really weird things that happened to Kamara this game that I don't know. I don't think I've seen it before. So Nick broke it down. There's a lot of different visual ways to kind of see exactly what happened. Go check it out, man. Go check it out. It's right there on the website. I think the article went up today, right?
Yeah, they get mad at us when we do this, but look, if I work for the people that pay for the site, the podcast is free because they're paying for it. Pay for the site, you get everything. I'm sorry, this is the way it's got to work. There's no podcast without a website, so they're going to be mad. But that's it. We're done talking.
My company asked me to work for free this week, and I was like, I gotta eat. It's Christmas. Marley needs a new toy.
You ain't asking me to work through lunch for free. Get out of here.
No, come on, man. Y'all be nice. Be nice, man. It's the season of giving. So give a subscription to somebody. But yeah. I think that if the O-line, interior O-line play gets to just average or above average, then I think that's a big improvement. Just as it pertains to like Ruiz's ability to hold up and pass pro, because it's been rough at times, and we've been saying it the whole year. Just one of those weird seasons, and no off season, no training camp, no rookie OTAs, all that other stuff. That stuff comes into play. I think maybe we'll get a better read on his potential next year. But if he can start picking it up for the playoffs, then man, that'd be ideal. So all right. So what did the defense do this game that made Patrick Mahomes throw for, I don't know how many pass attempts he had. It must have been like 50 something. It felt like it had to be like 50 pass attempts. I can look it up. 92 plays the Chiefs ran on offense. Usually when the defense plays that many snaps, they're leaking at the end of the game. Mahomes had like a 55% completion percentage, only threw for 253 yards on, like I said, a ton of attempts. Saints, they gave up some yards in the run, but how did the defense how did they limit this team with all things being considered? Short field, offense not possessing the ball, time of possession being weird. Just how did they keep this team in the game? What did they do?
I think that they just... Sorry, you got me?
Yeah,
I cut out there for a minute. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we're live. We ain't gonna be able to edit that. So
no, that's all good. You guys forgive us.
Yeah. So I think that they just kind of sold out to stop the passing game, and that resulted in giving up a lot of rushing yards, 173, I believe. But again, you played like a game and a half. And
yeah, exactly.
Look, the way when you're playing the Kansas City Chiefs, it's almost like a baseball game where they have 3 downs, which are your 3 outs, and you want them to expire those by any means necessary.
Yeah.
And if it's 3rd and 18 or 3rd and 4, it doesn't really make a difference to them. They're not fazed by it. They can get those 18 yards as easy as they can get the 4.
The 3, yeah.
And if you can make them run and burn it down running the ball, that's what you want them to do. And there was just a lot of snaps. I think it was all but 9 of their rushing attempts, and some of those are even in the red zone, so you aren't going to be like too deep down there or whatever. Like you're just going to play a certain way. But all of them basically had 2 deep safeties playing 12 yards depth on one side, 15 on the other.
Yeah.
6 guys in the box. You're giving up 4. And they didn't really have any explosive running plays. I think there were maybe 3 or 4 runs over like 6 yards. So
yeah,
it wasn't bad. Like they gave up some rushing yards, but I mean, it is what it is. I don't think this is the game where you're super worried about
the run
defense. Yeah, like Philadelphia, like on the heels of the Philadelphia game, I get it. The Philadelphia game, you kind of got guided a little bit by 2 guys. The quarterback got you. This one, Mahomes got out. Yeah, Mahomes got out a couple times too, but I just think the way that you're approaching the game, you're approaching it to stop the pass. You're going to give up some rushing yards. You're okay with conceding some rushing yards. They didn't get gutted. I thought this was a solid might be a decent run defense performance. And given the circumstances, maybe it is solid. I don't know. I just didn't feel like it was bad. But overall, the defense was they were incredible. They covered Kelsey a handful of different ways. What stood out early downs, Quan Alexander was able to hang with him one-on-one on some plays. They bracketed him, a bunch of times on 3rd down in various different, manners, which worked really well. They had some brackets on Tyreek with, there was a lot of 2 safety shells. So there were some brackets there, but just overall, everybody held up. They were extremely disciplined. Mm-hmm. I only thought there was, maybe there's a few times, but the 2 times that stood out where I thought they lost their discipline or, their fundamentals a little bit. The one touchdown where Tyreek, they started out in the 3-man stack, and then Tyreek just started motioning back and forth. Like, yeah, on like the 47th time back.
I knew he was getting the ball here. Yeah.
Marshawn lost his balance. He slipped. He gets open. Mm-hmm. I mean, it was a tough play. You got to make it. It was a tough play. And then late in the game on the last drive, I thought Malcolm lost. I believe it was Kelsey. He kind of got caught looking the wrong place, and you could tell, like, just immediately after, like, Malcolm looked so frustrated with himself. But those are really the only ones that stood out. And this is a team, again, like San Francisco before, that was the original stress test. Oh, was that real? They aren't that talented, blah, 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 blah. Okay, well, they are. Like, you got a stronger test with similar principles here, and they held up. So, to go to your early thing, like, are they elite? Look, man, this was, like, for as long as they were on the field, again,
92 plays, man.
You have to divide everything by 92.
Yeah.
You take the yards, you divide them by 92.
It's
you compare them to other games.
It's a good point.
Against this offense.
Yeah. Context. And just to your point, when you was talking, I went and pulled up look at the run defense stats. Kansas City ran for 4. So if someone watched this game, you would say who ran the ball better. And I mean, I think the Chiefs ran the ball better. I think that's fair. But the Saints had 1.1 yard per carry more than the Chiefs this game. The Chiefs ran the ball, I think, 41 times. So typically, when you run defense, you look at, okay, if they got 100 yards, you want to be around, 20 rushes, because that 5 yards per rush is kind of like that's a good run game if you're getting 5 per rush. And, they got up under that 4.5. They ran the ball, like I said, 41 times for 179 yards. So my guess is this is not, even counting the Eagles game, there may be a game this year where they gave up more yards per carry than that. So I just think the volume of offense that they went against, and not volume as in so many different weapons, literally volume as how many plays they were on the field, it led to certain numbers. We've spoken about this before. If a guy ran the ball 14 times for 100 yards, then that's a good running game. But if a guy ran the ball 30 times for 100 yards, then, the context is a little bit different. Right here, they ran the ball 41 times for 179. So I think they ran the ball effectively at times, and there were some drives sustained by the run game. That's just a fact. But I don't think it was a bad run defense game. I think that that was one of those things.
It was like a solid regular game against the run. It wasn't exemplary. Yeah. It was just that they had the volume. And again, 40-some minutes at some point, that's a stress test. That is a stress test. At a certain point.
Yeah, it is.
It's the amount of time they were on the field. Look, it was both halves, but in the first half, the amount of time they were on the field by it was just insane. It was 18 to 2 minutes at one point.
Yeah,
it was absurd, and it was just they're out there. Brees is going 3 and out. He's throwing a pick. It was absurd, and they were holding up.
Listen to this. To your point you're making. The Saints were 9% on third down, so that means the offense is not staying on the field. So the defense is getting off the field. They're coming right back on. I forget how many times the Chiefs punted 5 times in the first half. Here's the craziest stat you'll see. Time of possession, Chiefs 41-14, New Orleans 18-46. I mean, I don't know how else. Crucify the offense if you have to find someone, but defensively, to play 41 minutes, that's, I don't know how many teams win if with the time position like that. It's just ridiculous.
I mean, the offense let the defense down like Cole let Nas down. It's just.
Hey man, listen. I listened. That was off Friday Night Lights too. I think I was listening to that a couple of weeks ago. Classic mixtape, by the way. You guys check that out.
That was enough. That was
the album.
No. Yeah, because Nas was hating on him about. It was on his second album.
Because the single Nas was hating on. Yeah. All right. Well, check it out anyway. Okay, so if you're the Saints. And do you how aggressive? Because here's what I think, right? This team, they have this attitude with them, and I'm trying to figure out how to phrase this question, but these guys, they play a certain way, and it's kind of hard to pull them back. So how do you balance trying to keep that aggressive edge that this team has, while at the same time, trying to keep your eyes on the prize, which is winning in the playoffs, right? How do you think Peyton balances these two? Because you look at these guys' tweets and they're like, man, I can't wait. Cam Jordan mad because he swung a punch that he said he wasn't punched. Chauncey Gardner-Johnson said he got to get better. There's all these things, all these tweets going on. We know how these guys tweet, but I do think they play with an edge, and I do think there's something to them, the level of competitiveness that they display that leads to them being as good as they are. So. How do you balance that? It's important to have that edge, but at the same time, it's important to, get this team into the postseason. in your opinion, like how does the coach balance that? Like, what's the next steps there?
I think it's easy. I think you go all out and you basically just, if there's somebody with an injury that could benefit from having a little bit of time, you set them aside and you have them do that. And look, I mean, the flip side of it is with Brees is that he's playing a little bit hurt because that's what's going to benefit him getting into the playoffs. So I think you just have to be smart about every situation, judge each one uniquely, do what's best for it. Yeah. If Deontay can use a little bit of time, let Deontay get a little bit of time. If bringing Callaway back, if bringing Callaway back to get him up to speed and knock off the rust is what you need to do, then you do that. But I don't think you dial back you go in there and you play as hard as you can. You put everybody out there, but like again, if Mike's hurting on his ankle and he's telling you that his ankle hurts and that he doesn't feel right despite catching 9 passes, you say, okay, Mike, take a break. You go ahead and you do that. I mean, if that's what's best for you, that's what you do.
Yeah, no, I'm with it. All right, so the biggest thing we have to address on this pod, the elephant in the room, as they say. Where did Drew Brees get his bionic arm from? What happened? And so I know you're at the game, right? And so you're watching it like live. So on TV, like they were showing, I think it was like a replay or something from the previous play. And then they switch to the current play. And the only thing you see is Drew, looking like to the ceiling and launching it. I'm like, oh, this is a pick. And it wasn't. And I was like, what just
on the Sanders show.
Yes, the Sanders show. I'm like, oh, wait a minute. And that was it like 40 yards in the air?
Bro, that was the IG videos from the summer. That was the IG videos from the summer.
There you go.
Yes. Look, his shoulder was hurt. It's been hurt all year. I mean, most of the year, and he's been battling it. He took time off. It wasn't just the ribs and the lung that got healthy. The shoulder got healthy too. And you see it, and it's out there. And I think he's throwing the ball better than he has in a while. And it wasn't just that one. And I think that when we're talking about rust, I don't even know like where I would say rust exists. I don't even know if that's like rust that he needs to shake off. I think that's like, oh, I'm throwing the ball better and I got to figure out how to do this because I haven't been having these practices. And it's not just that one. Like there were throws where he's on the hash thrown to the sideline, the opposite hash to the sideline. And it's like, 15 yards down the field, but like through the air distance from where he is to where the ball's going. Yeah. These are throws that are like 30, 32, 33 yards through the air that he's not hitting earlier in the season. And not all of them, he floated one, I think, but a couple of them came in like on a hard line early in the game. He missed Sanders by a step. That was one of those throws. He almost threw a pick on one in the fourth quarter down the sideline, I think, trying to go to Johnson. But like these were throws that he was getting in there and they were coming out good. They looked good coming out of his hand and he believed in it. He was being aggressive. I think that's important too. So I think, when we talk about Russ, I think that there's just elements of his game that he needs to dial in that he hasn't felt in a while, and he's finding out what his body can do and all that stuff. So, in that respect, I'm encouraged about maybe what he can do in a couple of weeks relative to what I thought he could do before the injury. Like, and I don't think that's a wild take. Like, he got hurt, he's been banged up, he gets healthy, he's an old dude. You take some mileage off, you should come back if you're healthy, you should come back looking a little bit better than you did beforehand.
Yeah, I mean, listen, if this rib injury / lung injury allowed him to rest probably the most troubling injury, which is his shoulder, and that thing is healed up, then I think there's some reason for optimism.
Breaking half your rib cage is probably putting the hole in your leg is probably a little bit more troubling than.
Yeah, puncture means to actually get through. By the way, it's like he didn't poke his rib cage, like something punctured the lung, and then he broke half his ribs. Was it 12 out of 24 or was it 11? I mean, at that point, it doesn't matter, right? It's too damn many.
It's half. Yeah, I mean, it's half. You're rounding up at that point. It's half. He broke. He lost a half rack.
And hey, listen, coming from someone who's never broken one rib, listen, man, he got my respect. And I mean, and like I said, he even still said the fact that he's not 100%. Now, 100% meaning like he's still not 100% healed, or he's still not 100% like back into the motion of things. And there I think it's a few different areas where the whole 100% comment hit. But no, I do think it's a significant development. And I just want to highlight, you guys, there's another article that Nick wrote on the site, and it was just basically breaking down Drew's game, like his throws, and he talks about some of the rust or maybe lack thereof, and just some of the decisions he was making, how maybe some of the guys helped him or didn't help him on some routes and things like that. So if you're looking for a kind of an in-depth breakdown on how Drew really looked, because the national media is going to speak, they're going to spin it one way, right? These guys get on TV, and not talking about anyone in particular, but they look at a stat, third down, completion percentage, yardage, and they're like, okay, he had a bad game, and then that's the narrative. But that's not how like coaches and people who watch film look at football. So go to the site.
Yeah, we already saw that once. We already saw that in the early part of the season where Drew's career was over, and he should only play between the in the red zone, or what, I don't know.
He was benched after his first drive. Remember, he was like, "Oh, it's Jameis time." I'm like, "Here we go."
When you really watch the takes of some people, like it's like people were so anti-Taysom. Drew gets back in there, and then by like a certain point in the game, like people are calling like, "Is Drew really this?" Like, put Taysom back, and it's like, yo, like a week ago you were hating on. Like, come on,
yeah,
come on.
It's ridiculous. I saw the Taysom. I saw like after like a drive, I was like, someone said, "Oh, they need to put Taysom back in," and I'm like, okay.
Yeah, I understand like a fan saying it, but like, come on, man, you're like a paid like analyst. Like, I understand like if you're caught up in the emotions of it, and it's just like, get this guy out of there. He's not hitting his passes.
So these people make money. Yeah. Some of them like they get a check to say that,
like,
and I'm
calm down, calm down, man.
Yeah, I'm keeping my money. So, all right, hey guys. If anyone has any really good questions off the top of their head and you guys want us to answer them, then put them in chat, because this is the part of the show where being interactive and being live helps us out a lot. And so you guys get to ask questions, anything you want to know, anything you guys want to ask Nick. I think this is like one of the few places where you can like just get have a live Q&A back and forth. So if you guys got any questions, let us know and throw them in chat and we'll answer them. Otherwise, it's gonna be a little chill night.
Oh yeah. Oh, they're saying in the chat that we forgot to change the title of the podcast, and it says, "Where do things stand after the loss of the Eagles?" But
yeah, I saw that earlier. I just thought it was like a refresh thing.
Yeah, we're new to the live game.
Yeah. New. All right, so I see a question by JC JASY. Do you think Mike Zimmer is in Sean's head? Yeah, I'm gonna let you take that one. That's a fun question. They're buddies, so maybe he got some. Maybe Sean is giving him his game plan before the games.
I don't think so. I think they just came out and they played a bad game the last time. They probably do know each other really well at this point. They play each other every season, but I don't know if like Sean's like shook by him. But I would say that Zimmer probably has a pretty good understanding for how Sean thinks, and I think Sean probably has a pretty good understanding of how Zimmer thinks. They came up together, they coached together forever. They're playing each other. I think it's probably the second best rivalry after the Falcons for the Saints at this point.
That's probably, hell, Minnesota's winning that one. Well, yeah,
I think if you're a Saints fan, you probably that's where the chip is. I think the chip on the shoulders towards them at this point. So
I just don't want to play them in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Keep them out of there. I'd rather play the Packers or the Chiefs again or something.
Yeah, I think that's easy money though. Like I would definitely put them there, but like I don't think Zimmer's like own Sean or anything. Like Duke missed a tackle one play. They came out flat last year.
Everson Griffin is gone. Danielle Hunter's not playing.
Taysom did everything he could in the last game.
Hey man, that was Superman that game, bro. Yeah, and Minnesota, I think they have the most explosive plays. Like one of the top teams in the NFL for explosive plays. I think Coach Payton mentioned that. So the defense is going to have to limit them there. But, Zimmer's a good defensive coach, and he calls a good scheme. And sometimes they work. A lot of the times they work. So I think that's probably a big part of it. So, all right. Byron Chapman. I know Byron, man. We chat on Twitter. What's up, man? Did the offense keep any tendencies from when Taysom was the quarterback? Nick, I will leave that one for you.
I would say that 75% of the playbook probably wasn't in there when Taysom was the quarterback. You know, they dialed it down. I think they kept the core route concepts, and there was some familiarity with that, but I don't think there's a lot of the window dressing. I don't think that a lot of the complexity was there. I think it was kind of, you know, 3 route concepts, easy reads, get in and out of it. And
right.
Taysom executed it. But yeah, I mean, no, I don't think that they're going to keep, you know, I don't think there's anything that they did special with Taysom that they're going to bring back for Drew that they like learned through that. And, you know, I think it's just back into the regular offense at this point. And, you know, I still feel like if I want to be done talking about him, but I still feel like if Taysom were the full-time starter, that there would be more to it.
Yeah.
Than we saw.
I'm with you. I have one thing to add to the question. I don't think we're going to see quarterback power from Drew. that's my only take on that question.
They had him on some bootlegs. They had him running. There's a few more bootlegs. He always runs some bootlegs, but it's just like it's funny after seeing like Taysom do it to Drew. Like you just see like the change in athleticism on those. But then you also see the change in the throwing accuracy and
where the ball's being put late, how quick the ball's coming out, decision making, and you don't need to split the field for Drew.
Drew can throw a ball on the move and get it where he wants it to go.
Taysom can't.
Yeah, that was the weirdest thing. I'll never.
Yeah, he was like accurate from the pocket and not from outside. I'm like, what? Yeah, what world are we living in? All right, next question.
Let me see if we got one here.
See, Eddie's in here.
I don't know.
All right, I'll bring this one up. I see Eddie had a question. He said, "Would you be concerned if the Saints had to play Tampa Bay in the playoffs? Beating a team 3 times that's my best way to."
No, it's not. They beat Carolina 3 times. That's a Eddie. Come on, man. They beat Carolina 3 times. That's just a thing people say. Like when you're like, it's not hard to knock out Glass Joe 3 times when you turn on Mike Tyson's Punch Out. Like if you're better than a team, you're better than a team.
Do you know Tampa, anyone that's
Tampa would be like, yeah, I guess you don't want to play Tampa. Like, I don't know. Brady in the playoffs is a little bit different than, you know, Carolina a few years ago in the playoffs. But I don't think if you think a team is definitively better than another team, I don't think you're like, damn, like they beat them the first 2 times. And now that they got to play a 3rd time, they're going to lose just because it's the 3rd time they're playing. Like, I think that's the thing people say. I'm not saying it's Eddie. I think that's the thing people say.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the 30 the 30 rushes thing is the thing people just say.
100-yard rusher.
I think there's just a lot of things people. Yeah, I think there's just like a lot of like saying and mantras in football that people just say that just like it just doesn't
mean nothing.
Yeah, it doesn't mean anything. Like, if you're better than a team, you're better than a team. If you aren't, you aren't. Like I don't think. I think Tampa would be tough for its own reasons, but not just because it's the 3rd time. It's just like.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, Brady in the playoffs. Like again, that's probably a stupid thing too. Though, it's like this guy with like, but like no, I think he
something there.
I mean, he's
LeBron is like that. Like he's
the greatest playoff quarterback of all time. We can say that, right? It's not even like one
fair.
of like he is the greatest playoff quarterback of all time.
He came back from 28-3.
Yeah,
that's ridiculous. One more question, and guys, we are out of here. And this question is for Nick alone. Nick, do you know anyone who's ever lost to Glass Joe and Punch Out?
I do not. Do you?
No, because I would not be a friend to that person.
Like that's got to be impossible.
It's got to be.
You can just button mash. There's only 2 buttons too, so just hit one of them.
You ain't even got to do up and down. Just give them like gut shots. Like, yeah. If there's anything we want to leave you guys with this pod is don't lose to Glass Joe and Punch Out because that's lame. I be playing it on my Switch, man. You know, just getting. I think it was the Switch I was playing it on recently. But yeah. Anyway.
They need to make a new one. The last one was for the SNES.
They came out with it. See, I don't even recognize anything but the Nintendo. Like I don't even like.
Yeah, there was what was it? But Piston Honda was like one of the guys in it.
Okay. They should do a new one and let Mike like voice over it. Like I'm totally here for that, man. I'm totally here for it.
Nick Bruiser and Rick Bruiser. Yeah.
Oh, you going back?
Those are like the main guys. Like they had to beat.
Yeah, no, yeah.
Narcissus Prince.
Oh, you was a gamer. Yeah.
Oh, all right, yeah. Punch Out for sure.
Yeah, I was like playing Zelda, you know. Hey, man, that's what it is. Zelda and NBA Live. So, All right, guys. This podcast has officially went off the rails. Thank you guys for showing up. We appreciate it. As I always say after every pod, and I say it because we mean it. Having you guys here live, watching it, asking us questions, telling us when the topics are wrong and stuff like that helps a lot, man. We appreciate it. So just tell someone to watch the pod. Give them a link. The links are pretty much going to be the same every week. So make sure you guys stay tuning in. Make sure you guys go to NewOrleans.Football/subscribe. Since the game, I think Nick has written 3 articles. One about Drew, one post game that he always writes, and he wrote a really good article about some of the things the Chiefs did against Alvin Kamara. I don't want to give the article away, but it's good. It's good. I don't think it's going to work indefinitely, but it's something interesting. And if you like football and you like to see the X's and O's and how things work and how teams use different schemes and things of that nature, it's super interesting to watch, man. So you guys make sure you check it out. Support the site. Tell someone about it. Tell someone about the pod. 5-star ratings, all the other stuff helps us. You guys be safe over the holidays. Have a Merry Christmas. You guys just be safe, man. And Merry Christmas. The Saints play on Christmas, which sucks, but we'll be watching it and we'll be there. So you guys stay safe. With that said, thank you guys for listening. We'll see you next week. We out.